Is the media hating on Jaylen Brown? Jaylen Brown just called out ESPN after a recent post that they made in his last couple of games, and we'll be exploring, was Jaylen Brown right or wrong for calling out the media in this case. We'll also be looking at an injury update to Kristaps Porzingis. Hopefully he'll be back sooner than expected, and we also have some more news related to the Celtics involving Charles Barkley guaranteeing them to win the NBA championship. All of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz, but before we get into any Boston Celtics content, I would like to say shout out to you guys. We just recently hit 2,400 subscribers, and we're trying to get to our goal of 3,000 subscribers, and we can't do it without you guys hitting that subscribe button. So if you guys want to make sure you guys stay up to date on everything Boston Celtics related, news, trades, rumors, post-game videos, live streams, everything involving the Boston Celtics, make sure to hit the subscribe button and join the family. Would greatly appreciate it. But let's dive into the news at hand today. Make sure to grab a snack and get ready to go, as this is going to be a jam-packed episode as we dive into some Celtics news. First, we'll be looking at Charles Barkley confidently believing in the Boston Celtics prior to the in-season tournament game that happened on Monday night between the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. The TNT crew had a little bit of talking going on, and Charles Barkley had to say this: the Boston Celtics are going to win the championship, guaranteed. And Charles Barkley guarantees that the Celtics will win the NBA Finals. Do you agree or disagree with Chuck? And I want to know in the comment section what you guys believe. Do you guys think the Boston Celtics are guaranteed to win the NBA championship? I don't know about guaranteed, but I think they have a very, very high shot of winning. They're obviously a top team in the Eastern Conference. They have great players in Jaylen Brown, Jayson, Tatum, Kristaps Porzingis, Jrue Holiday. Yes, their bench might need a little bit of upgrades, as we've only seen Sam Hauser and Al Horford truly step up for this bench so far. But guys like Payton, Pritchard could easily step up later into the season. And we also have that Grant Williams trade player exception that the Celtics can use to upgrade at the trade deadline to bring in another piece, either in the front court, the wing, or the back court, whatever you guys feel is needed, or whatever Brad Stevens feels is needed to bring in for this Celtics core to help them make a championship run. Obviously, we've seen them take out great teams in the Eastern Conference already. They've already beaten the Milwaukee Bucks. They've beaten the Philadelphia 76ers 2 out of the 3 times they've played them. And they've played the New York Knicks in recent games, and they've been able to handle the New York Knicks as well. So the Boston Celtics have been able to handle most of the Eastern Conference. They have games coming up versus the Cleveland Cavaliers in this month as well. So those will be true tests to see if the Boston Celtics are at the top of the Eastern Conference and can hold off the most of the Eastern Conference. But as we've seen so far, they've already been a dominant team in the NBA. They've already been a top defense. Their offense has gone down a little bit in the past couple games, but they are still a contending team, and they should be a prevalent team in this race towards the end of the season. I think that they are a top 3 team in the NBA and have a great chance of winning this title. But let's look into some more news. Talking about Kristaps Porzingis being back on Friday. And if you guys do not know, since the Boston Celtics failed to beat the Indiana Pacers in the in-season tournament game on Monday, they play the loser of the game yesterday, which is the New York Knicks. On Friday, we have this tweet here from Brian Robb saying that the Celtics will host the Knicks on Friday night with a 7:30 p.m. start time. The two teams will play each other 5 times during this regular season. Usually, each team plays each other 4 times in the division, 2 times at home, 2 times on the road. But because of the in-season tournament and the Celtics and the Knicks getting a makeup game, just because they were the 2 losers, they obviously will play each other 5 times throughout the regular season. Very cool to see, and will be nice to look at as the Celtics take on another divisional rival in the New York Knicks, who have been a great matchup so far for the Boston Celtics, and they have a solid team in the Eastern Conference, so it should be a good matchup. And Kristaps Porzingis should believe to be back on Friday. Jay King, we have a tweet here saying, Kristaps Porzingis said he believes he's ready to return. He said he went through a full practice today and got some scrimmage time in too, and we saw some clips from Jay King's Twitter as well, highlighting that, which is very cool to see. Kristaps Porzingis, he's been working on the bike the past couple weeks. Now he's getting ingrained in practice, and he fully went through his first scrimmage. I personally believe that Kristaps Porzingis will be back for this Friday matchup versus the New York Knicks, and I think that's a solid thing for the Boston Celtics. Ultimately, having Kristaps Porzingis back, he's had this whole week to recover. Hopefully this calf strain is a little bit not as bad as the Celtics deem it to be, and Kristaps Porzingis has healed enough so that he can play on this calf strain. Obviously, I don't want him to re-injure himself, so if Kristaps Porzingis isn't fully healthy, he should not be playing on it, because one regular season game doesn't really mean that much for a 2025 into the regular season and into the playoffs if you are hurt. But having this guy come back for the Boston Celtics is great, as the Celtics have had their game plan kind of easily read out by opponents, as Kristaps Porzingis hasn't been there for the past week. They haven't had their third plus 20 point per game score. Their X factor, I will say, as Kristaps Porzingis drastically brings a lot of versatility to the game, either him scoring in the post, him scoring out on the 3-point line, him having in the paint to block shots and be a great rim protector and also grab rebounds. It's so impactful on both sides of the ball, and the Boston Celtics are desperately missing that piece. As we can see in the last couple of games, they haven't been playing to their best potential, and that's because they have a main key contributor being injured. So having Kristaps Porzingis back should hopefully bring this Boston Celtics team on offense back to their regular schedule of programming, and hopefully will be actually a top 5 offense in the NBA, as we've seen them dwindle down a little bit since the Kristaps Porzingis injury. But let's look into the main news at hand today, which talks about Jaylen Brown calling out the media. We want to talk about how this happened. The ESPN posted a recent post here talking about how Jaylen Brown has been getting him up the last 2 games, saying he's taken 43 field goal attempts with 0 assists. And Jaylen Brown had something to say under that. He said, "Y'all corny. Watch the game." And I'm going to agree here with Jaylen Brown on this, as we want to look at Jaylen Brown's past stats from the past couple games. We want to look, these are his last 5 games that he's played. Versus the Orlando Magic, I'm not going to say the Celtics had a terrible game where they played. He shot terribly and only finished with 18 points. But in the game versus Atlanta, he played solid and effective for the Boston Celtics. 3 assists, 7 rebounds, shooting around 48%. Not the greatest from 3 this year from Jaylen Brown, but he's been attacking the rim and taking some great mid-ranges for the Boston Celtics, finishing with 21 points. And if you want to look at his last 3 games, you can see he's combined for 70 points in those last 3 games. Or 80 points, 2 30 bombs and a 20 bomb. 30 bomb versus the Chicago Bulls, which was a great win for the Celtics to clinch that in-season tournament berth. He shot 50% from the field. He had 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 30 points. He was playmaking. He was doing everything that the Boston Celtics needed him to do. And then the last couple of games versus the Sixers and versus the Indiana Pacers, he shot decent. He shot 40% versus the Sixers, 60% versus the Pacers. Not the greatest from 3, again, like I said, but 4 rebounds, 9 rebounds. Again, no assists, but 4 total blocks in those games, 5 steals all around, and 50 points combined. I honestly think Jaylen Brown has been playing tremendous for the Boston Celtics. Yes, he hasn't been looking to get the other guys involved, but that's not realistically his goal. Yes, if his shot isn't falling and he's making bad shots or taking bad shot selections, he should be looking to get other guys involved in the offense. But as you guys can see, he's shooting 60% from the field, 40% from the field, 50% from the field, 47%. The one bad game was the Orlando game, and in which the whole Celtics played bad. But in these last 4 games, he's been playing exceptionally great for the Boston Celtics, helping them score points, helping them get rebounds, helping them get block shots, helping them get steals. He's doing what he needs to do. His role isn't to be this all-forsaken playmaker for this Boston Celtics team. And I don't really like the disrespect on Jaylen Brown. Yes, he can get the offense involved in a little bit of some plays. There are some times where he does take some bad shots. But in recent games, Jaylen Brown has been prioritizing that by taking more attacks at the rim and prioritizing that more than taking threes. We've seen in the beginning of the season, Jaylen Brown was taking a lot of pull-up threes on the fast breaks. Now Jaylen Brown is actually attacking the basket and going for those hard-made and one. And even if he's not confident in making that free throw and he is going to miss that free throw, he's still going for that and one play, overtaking that 3 and risking of not scoring any points, which is great to see out of a great player from the Boston Celtics. Ultimately, I'm still confident in Jaylen Brown. I think he is going to be a stellar player for this Boston Celtics team. And yes, he's had some bad performances so far, but Jaylen Brown is still the number 2 guy on this team, and he still has an impactful role with this Boston Celtics core. Like I said, putting up 30 points versus the Indiana Pacers team and looking like the main offensive focal point for most of that game on Monday night. He was in control of the Boston Celtics offense. But at that point in the video, if you guys are still not subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as we know you enjoy the Boston Celtics content here. We got like we said, we got our next game versus the New York Knicks on Friday, which will be an exciting one. Hopefully the Boston Celtics can get a dub versus the Atlantic Division rivals, and they can keep up that pace of being the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Celtics Digest, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm Bruce Veliz. Peace out.